I'm back, back in the New York blue.
Ryan.
Scott.
Now, wiser words were never spoken by Rosie Perez.
She is a sage.
She is. You know that, so my wife is herself, she's Puerto Rican. And Rosie Perez was one of her childhood idols as a kid.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. I'm a bit admirer of Rosie Perez.
Yeah,
Especially
probably
in that movie.
for
She
different...
never looked better than in that movie.
Right. Well, exactly. I think you're
Yeah.
you're a fan of Rosie Perez for maybe different reasons than Nicole was.
Yeah. Right. I think Rosie Perez in White Men Can't Jump is a formative sexual experience, I would say.
Agreed. But now
that was important. That one was like, okay, something is happening.
Yes.
The right age, probably exciting.
Hitting
so I
at
have
the
a
right time.
soft spot for Rosie Perez.
Well, and now we can appreciate her for entirely different reasons. For her wisdom.
Right. For her wisdom, her great, great wisdom. And, maybe never more appropriate for fitting words.
Yeah. It really does perfectly describe my emotions about the outcome of Sunday's game.
Right. Right. Was that even a win? I know technically it was a victory. Did they in fact win?
And what's driving me nuts too, I would say that probably the most common thing you hear people say about Twitter when they're not actually on Twitter is how they like to be off of Twitter because it's such a toxic place and they have to get away from the negativity. I felt that on Sunday I had to get off Twitter because I couldn't handle the positivity anymore.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I know. I feel like lectured that let them enjoy the win. Why? There was just nothing positive about that performance.
Right.
There's really nothing you left being like, well, I mean, it was nice to win, I guess. I was happy a little bit for Joe Judge that he got, maybe he enjoyed his dinner that night. But there's nothing positive to take. We just, now we made it more difficult. I hate being in this position of being one of these people. Because I hate these people. But it is the sad reality that you're just now making it that much harder to get the number one pick and totally transform the franchise. And, I don't know. I don't know what else to take away from it.
Well, it's also, too, it's not like we smacked them around. We actually pulled that one out of our backsides there.
Right.
That was just almost luck, I guess. I don't know what you want to call that.
Not even luck, but at the end, right, we were hanging on for dear life against a horrible team who played terribly. There was nothing impressive about the Redskins.
No.
Or excuse me, the Washington football team. I should
right.
The Slurs. And wait, they should call themselves the Slurs. That would be a good name. I did find myself thinking, what are they doing? You hear Ron Rivera kind of explain what, Dwayne Haskins should be playing. It's absurd. He's better than that guy for sure.
Yeah.
And if the argument you're trying to make is that this guy is more prepared or knows your system better, does he? I mean, he looked he made a couple of horrendous decisions. He was terrible. Put Dwayne Haskins in. I don't even get that.
Well, right. I mean, I guess because it's also just as fair to ask the football team, what's your goal here? What outcome are you seeking right now? So Kyle Allen is better than Dwayne Haskins, so you're going to play Dwayne Haskins, but Kyle Allen is not your answer. So what are you doing?
Right. What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
You're trying to win this watered down East. You can't even beat the Giants.
Right. But also, then what? So then, you're not in the mix for the number one pick because you're trying to win games. And so then who are you moving forward? You're moving forward with Kyle Allen, or are you going to give Dwayne Haskins another chance at some point? What's the plan here?
Yeah. No, right. And, to me, Ron Rivera, you're supposed to come in to sort of fix all this and get the thing pointed in a direction. Right. I mean, what do they even have? I mean, God, as depressing as the Giants are, what are you if you turned on that Washington game, you're a Washington football fan. What are you even like Chase Young, I guess, you're excited about, but otherwise, like, what are we doing?
Right. All right. I mean, at least our quarterback is the best. At least the quarterback we drafted in that draft is the best one we have on the team.
Right.
That
Right.
plays. I mean,
Or he
God.
plays, and there's some hope that maybe he's good. But to me, like Dwayne Haskins would still give you that. I've watched enough of him. Like he's not impressed. He's been bad, but he does enough things where I would say if I was a Washington fan, like okay, he makes a couple big throws. He's got a big arm. Like at least he gives you, there's some value into improving him, seeing if he's going to be good. Putting Kyle Allen out there, is it just to like, I don't know, just depress everybody and just make everybody miserable? Like, I don't get it.
No, not at all. I guess, also too, they have a good they have more to build on, it feels like, than we do in some ways. They have a good defense. They have they have a couple of really talented players, 2 legit pass rushers. I mean,
Yeah.
But if you're still going to be this bad and you have a chance to add Trevor Lawrence, what would you even try to win for? What are you doing,
Right.
especially if you hate Haskins?
Right. And then theoretically, Haskins gives you the best of both worlds because you're still going to lose, but you
Right.
get to like see if he's got anything,
Yeah.
and then you learn if he does or he doesn't. And I know he said, well, we've evaluated him. He feels he's seen all he needs to see, but I mean, so what? I've seen all I need to see of Kyle Allen too.
Right.
Like I don't need 11 more games of that guy. So I don't understand
And also,
what Washington is doing.
if you'd want to draft a quarterback, which they should if they don't like Haskins, don't you want to at least try and build up some value for Haskins to get rid of him?
Right. Yeah. If you're going to move on from him anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe put a little something on tape, and then we could get a second round, third round pick for him. I mean, I don't think you get that much probably at this point, but something.
Right.
I mean, 2 year ago, the guy everyone thought he was the best quarterback in the draft, or a lot of people did. You know?
I mean, this is actually, I have to, I mean, I'm going to assume this is on purpose on your part, but I admire your wizardry, Brian, because we started out now with talking about how poorly run the Redskins are, and now I'm starting to be like, oh, okay, it's not just us then.
Right. Maybe we've got some things to build on. Yeah.
Because one thing I forgot too, ESPN put up this article today that I read about, it's like an early article already about the teams that are probably going to move on from their head coaches this year and teams that are in the mix for GMs. And I was reading it to see like what they might say about the Giants GM situation. And just sort of a throwaway line in the article was like, oh, and the Redskins finally need to hire a GM. And I forgot, like, they don't even have a GM. Like,
right.
What are you guys doing?
What are you doing? What is going on over there? I feel so bad for Haskins, too. Like, it just seems so weird to me that he was a high draft pick. Everybody expected him to be a first round pick. And he goes to this place, and seemingly immediately, everybody there has hated him the whole time. And, like, instantly, like, he gets drafted, and Jay Gruden, like, didn't seem to be on board. He didn't like him. And you're just like, why am I here? Why did you guys bring me here if nobody likes me? It must be the weirdest feeling to like walk around the building. Like, why do I feel like no one likes me here? They picked me. I could have gone somewhere else. Like, it's just so weird.
Well, he went to high school with Daniel Snyder's son.
Oh, okay. So I guess they're friends.
Well, right. But that's also probably contributes to why everybody hates him.
Right. Yeah, maybe. I guess so. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're with them.
Right. You're one of Snyder's guys.
Yeah.
That's why and you stink. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to die on the Dwayne Haskins hill, but to me, he's got some potential that I would. It's certainly worth rolling him out there rather than watching what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's either Kyle Allen being terrible or Alex Smith terrifying everybody that he's a play away from catastrophic injury.
Yeah, like just never walking again.
Yeah, right. Either terribleness or just human suffering on a terrible scale. I don't know. But, I guess as much as it is nice to watch a team and be like, okay, well, they're worse than us, and they maybe are even directionless than us. Like, I don't even know what to say about the Giants because everything's this. There's just nothing. We could keep like I could go about Jason Garrett was terrible and he's has a terrible offense and he's bad and Daniel Jones is like shows you a few things but has mostly been bad and Joe Judge I think has some hope but is not doing anything impressive and the defense is whatever, but it's just like we talk about the same stuff every game. Like every game is
Yeah.
exactly the same. Um, so I don't
So
know.
so you're saying that Jason Garrett's trick plays have not
They,
won you over the last couple weeks.
no, no, no. They're so ham-fisted. It's like, aha, a reverse. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's no like design to them. It's just, and there's no like flow to when they happen, or they're not. You're never like, oh, we've been setting them up with that. It's just like, how about a trick play?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they're literally the only two trick plays that were you could use or you could run on Super Tecmo Bowl.
Right.
The reverse and the flea flicker are the
They
two trick
feel like
plays.
I feel like the call is like trick play number 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like razzle dazzle. Like there's no sense that this is part of some strategy or that he's seen something in the other team and that he's responding to. Like, I don't know.
Well, it was also kind of funny because the first play of the game was some sort of play action off of a counter play that they ran maybe 25 times against the Cowboys the week before. And then they opened the game against the Redskins with play action off of that counter play. And, Mark Schlereth made note of it in the broadcast, and it was like, oh, okay, we set this up. We used the prior game to set up this play, but then after that, that was
Right.
it. That was like we used all of the Dallas game to set up the opening play in the Washington game, and it was like, whew,
Right.
there we go.
Yeah, okay, there we go. It paid off.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Right.
It just,
Do you really use like previous game? I know you kind of do. Like you want to like playoff tendencies you've established to fool teams, but it does seem right. I don't want to like use a previous game. Like during that game, are you thinking like,
no.
this
but-
isn't going to work today, but I'll tell you, 2 weeks from now, we are going to really blow the doors off the Washington.
I sort of just picture it as they're in a staff meeting, and Joe Judge is like, hey, Jason, noticed we ran a lot of counters this week. Maybe
Right.
5 times a series. I think we should come up with something off of that for next week.
Right. Maybe we should do something with that.
That might be helpful,
Right.
And Garrett's like, oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
First play.
I know, but that's the thing. It's like it's so hard to get. Like I want to be excited about Judge, but this is his team, I mean, and this offense is such a slog. Like it's so. I know. Maybe I mentioned this before, but it sounds like I saw someone. I'm stealing this from someone. I'm not going to credit them, but who said that it's Jason Garrett's offense is like designed to get 10 yards in 3 plays.
Yes.
And it's so true, like it is methodically take it down the field, get a lot of first downs. But, and that's why I think we struggle in the red zone and we don't get big plays. And it's just like, and I think it's by design. Like I do think he believes in possessing the ball. And to me, it's just all revealing why the Cowboys underachieved as much as they did. Is this philosophy like he just did not maximize talent he has, and it's a really conservative ideology that he has, and it's terrible.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right, too, where it's just like he's living in his fears, where, don't turn the ball over. Let's not,
You're right.
just nothing, no risk. But I guess it's more than that, because it's also just no creativity. And again, back to the trick plays. It's like those are from Super Tecmo Bowl. There's no creativity. There's no or he maxed out his creativity on play 1 of the game. I just don't think he's just, it's not just that he's really conservative. It's also that he's not even and this is what's funny too, when you're talking about the connection to Judge, but I don't think that he's detail oriented enough. Not every trick play, there are a lot of times where the 49ers run something that seems like a trick play, but it's really not. It's just a lot of motion and then a classic power off tackle play. But he's so detail oriented that he makes it look like something totally different when really it's something really basic. And, Judge preaches details, but I think the problem with Jason Garrett is just no eye for detail in terms of setting these plays up or designing them. It's just, vanilla.
Yeah. No, and it's like, look, we found like Devontae Freeman's been surprising. He's been a nice surprise. He's like looks a little got some, spark. But it's almost like he wants to. What are we going to build the whole team around Devontae Freeman? You know what I mean? Is that our identity? Is like inside handoffs to Devontae Freeman? No way.
Right.
We're not built for that. He's not capable of that. It just you're like, what is this?
Right. What is this? And I just, you said it. This is like Groundhog's Day or whatever. But again, Jason Garrett has just made it impossible to evaluate anybody. We can't properly evaluate Judge. We can't properly evaluate Jones. We just can't properly evaluate the offensive line. You can't properly evaluate
Evan Ingram. Yeah.
Right.
We have to make decisions on all of these people imminently.
Right.
Right.
By the end of this season, behind me, you might just see like a corkboard with all kinds of like strings like with Jason Garrett at the center.
Yeah.
Because I still how did that happen? I would just say all the questions about the Giants' future and where we're headed can be answered if we could just know precisely how. It's not. Joe Judge did not go into his interview and say, I've studied the Cowboys' offense. I really like what I see. Jason Garrett, we need that didn't happen.
Right. Right. That's the guy. I've surveyed the NFL landscape, and I want Jason Garrett to be my offensive coordinator. Oh God, no! I tweeted this out the other day. Like the NFL tweeted that play. Do you remember that play a couple of years ago where the Chiefs? It was like a Hail Mary before the end of a first half, and they threw it to Tyreek Hill, and it was like the most ingenious Hail Mary you've ever seen, where he catches it about the 20-yard line, and then suddenly he's got a wall of blockers, and it was against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And they took the lead going into the half. It was the most unbelievable play you've ever seen, and like the Giants watched that play and decided they would rather be the team, rather be more like the team on the receiving end of it. Not the team that they had a chance to be more like the team that thought up that unbelievable play, and they wanted to be like the guy who was like looked totally perplexed by the whole thing.
Right, the guy who was
on
probably
the losing end of it.
Couldn't believe that was even allowed.
Right.
Like,
I was like, what?
Is that a play?
No, you have to throw it all the way to the end zone. That's the only thing you're allowed to do. I know. Oh God, this team is so unwatchable. I can't. It's so unwatchable. When that game was over, my daughter was like, "Daddy, like they won. Aren't you happy?" And it's just like, no.
Right.
I hated the whole experience. It was terrible.
Which is great because you've talked on this podcast for weeks about how your children don't know what it's like to see you happy watching football because they don't score, we don't win. Now, 2 weeks ago, we scored a bunch of touchdowns, still unhappy, and then this week we won, still. That's the miracle of the Giants, of the 2020 Giants.
Nothing. There's no solace. It's just nothing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to even talk about. Like, I guess we talk about Andrew Thomas and this whole like.
Yes, but just just before we get to that, because you just touched on the Chiefs and us. Obviously you were alluding to us taking Joe Judge and then having Garrett as our offensive coordinator over Eric Bieniemy, who's just clearly a brilliant play caller, offensive mind, what have you.
Yeah.
Is there a strong possibility that next year we could be watching Trevor Lawrence and Eric Bieniemy in MetLife Stadium playing for the New York Jets and coaching the New York Jets?
Yes, I do. I think there's a very strong possibility that happens. Yeah.
If that I can't make any promises about what I'll do. I don't know what I will do if that's the reality.
Right. That is true. Well, we're stuck with Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones in just a slog, going 5-11 and trying to convince ourselves that it's a positive 5-11.
Right, running Saquon Barkley coming off an injury right into Nick Gates' rear end the whole game.
He'll look terrible.
Yeah. And then Jason,
right.
and then Eric Bieniemy and Trevor Lawrence will be in the same time. That's unacceptable.
That would be something.
We can't allow that.
Look, I mean, if I'm a Jets fan, right? That should be what,
yeah,
I'm hoping for.
I mean, absolutely. So, but I guess maybe if you don't mind too, before we get to Andrew Thomas, if we talk about what our offseason should or could look like, because we were texting probably Sunday night, and you said something extremely hurtful to me, Brian. Because 2 years ago, you hurt my feelings when I was texting you about the draft, and you said to me, and this was before the draft even happened, the 2019 draft, you said, I got news for you. They're taking this Daniel Jones kid. And I was just like, no, they're not. Come on. And you were like, no, that's what they're doing. And I remember where I was during this conversation. And I was getting increasingly angry at you, even though you clearly weren't trying to antagonize me. I was just getting so upset with you. And then last night, or Sunday night, we were talking about, the Giants moving forward. And here's how I see it, is that, because again, and I agree with you, you said it at the top of the show, I hate to be one of those guys. I don't want to be the kind of fan that's rooting for us to tank, that is watching a close game like that and is rooting against my own team. But, I think one of the cases that you have to make for going for Trevor Lawrence is, like, what are we going to do? Because you would think that after this year, we have to fire Garrett, which is going to put Daniel Jones in the final year, his third year of his contract with his third offensive coordinator. Ideally, too, we're going to get rid of Gettleman, and we're going to have to hire a new GM. And I think that the organization likes Joe Judge enough that really limits our pool of candidates for GM if they have to just accept a ready-made coach and quarterback situation while having potentially a top 5 pick. So it's almost like we have to be ready to move on from Jones in order to hire a good GM. And I kind of laid this case out for you, and you responded to me with, I got news for you. I don't think they're firing Gettleman. And I became so angry at you, Brian.
I don't think they are. I think barring like a 2-14, total catastrophe, which look is on the table. I don't think they're going to. I think they really are loath to fire GMs. I think the way the Giants view it is that they collectively tried to when Gettleman came on, they tried to fix things for one last Eli run. Realized midstream they couldn't do it, so they pivoted to a total rebuild and decided that I think they thought Shermer could fix Eli, and then they thought that Shermer wasn't the guy they wanted to go forward with if they were going to a rebuild, so they hired Judge.
Yeah,
and I think that resets the clock on Gettleman. So I think they really are looking at like progress of any kind. Identify some players, and then I think they like Daniel Jones a lot. I would really not overestimate, or there's no way to overestimate, I think, how much the Giants like Daniel Jones. Whether you like him, or I like him, or the fans like him, or media likes him, or around the league, I guarantee you they really like him.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. But it's also just, who knows how the end is going to play out here, but just imagine looking at this team. You're John Mara, and you're looking at this team, and you don't already see it as a total catastrophe.
Yeah.
Like, we have a debate coming up on Thursday night, and it's like, who are these undecided voters? Yeah. Who's looking at Trump? And it's just like, I just don't know yet.
I know. I haven't made up my mind. I need a few more 100,000 dead before I can really decide if he's shaky or not.
Right.
I heard Biden, he had a gaffe the other day. He said something a little slippery. Yeah, I don't know. No, you're right. I will say to your point about I totally agree with you that if let's say they bottomed out, they have the number 1 pick in the draft or the number 2 pick in the draft, and you're hiring, you have to get rid of Gettleman, you fire him. Like, they absolutely would have to, whoever that GM is. I think they would. I don't know if they would be smart enough to do this, but you would have to say to that person, look, you can take whoever you want with that. If you want to take a quarterback, you can take a quarterback.
Yeah.
They probably would say to them, we'd really like to keep Judge. And I don't think they would have that much trouble getting a good candidate with Judge. I think
I agree.
My sense is he's respected, I think. And I the Giants, for all their flaws, and I think they would be a really attractive GM job because they give their GMs a lot of power, and they're probably very easy to work with. I think they have a good rep in that community. So assuming they did say, yeah, you can if Daniel Jones isn't for you, you can move on from him. I have a lot of doubt that they could identify the right candidate, but I don't think they would get spurned by candidates. I really don't.
Okay. Well, that's comforting at least.
They're still the Giants. Come on. People want you. Do you want to be the GM of the Giants?
Well, I mean, I do certainly,
Right. Lots of people do.
but yeah, yeah.
Look, Joe Douglas, right? He took the Jets job for God's sakes, and I mean, he had a big reputation. He could have probably waited on another job.
That's true. I would be shocked if Thomas Dimitrov wasn't a finalist. I'm gonna throw that out there now. I haven't read that anywhere, but I feel like I saw that when he got fired because he's from the Patriots. He never crossed paths with Judge, but he's from that family. I
could see that. Yeah, I think it would be probably somebody we've heard of before. Would be
absolutely,
my guess. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but back to the point. I think Dave Gettleman. I think he's here to stay. Scott Ishii.
Brian, just
for
no.
He's gonna be making the picks, making the moves.
Just God, what if we're sitting here in 2021 doing the same thing and Gettleman's still the GM, Garrett's still the offensive coordinator, and Donald Trump is still the president?
I think all those things are on the table.
Very much on the table.
Very possible. That's everything. And maybe we're still in our homes wearing masks on the toilet because we can't. And it's too dangerous.
And this is why more of us need to be like Jimmy Butler, Brian. Because we need to just be like, this is unacceptable. You stink.
No,
you
you're
stink.
right. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
God.
Dude, confrontation is important. I agree.
Oh goodness. All right. Well, let's talk about now that we've realized that Dave Gettleman is here to stay. Let's talk about his number 4 overall draft pick from this year, the first pick of the draft. Andrew Thomas did not start the game because he was late for a meeting.
Right.
That's a real thing that happened. Andrew Thomas was late. He's a professional football player, and he was late for a meeting, and he didn't start the game.
Right. I know. God almighty. Just put him in the game. All right? This is the professional ranks, for God's sakes. Okay? Like, I don't know.
Do you believe them? Do you think that's the only reason why?
I do. I do think so. I mean, I think they're being, I think it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen a team do, but I think they're being genuine that they want to get this guy Peart in games. And it's very weird to do it. It's like, and I wouldn't be surprised if it has something to do with like they did it to Cam Fleming last time, so it was sort of like Andrew Thomas's turn to like take a series off because it wasn't just the first series. He then,
it was like on and off the whole game.
Yeah. So I don't know what to make of it. I guess you could look at the positive. He sounds like he played pretty well.
Yeah.
Scott, we found not one. Dave Gettleman found not one, but 2 franchise tackles in one draft, and you want him fired?
Oh my God! I mean, here's what really worried me about it is, you would just think that if all it was Andrew Thomas was late to a meeting and then they punished him for that first series or that first quarter or whatever the duration of his punishment was supposed to be, and we're in a game that's as tight as that game and it's winnable, you would think he wouldn't come back out if they thought he was good. It's like if you actually want to win that game, and we don't have a ton of winnable games on the schedule, wouldn't you be like, well, we have to have our best out there for the whole time to give ourselves a shot? So, I mean, even if that says something positive about Peart, and wonderful, great, I hope he's good, but that's still very troubling about Andrew Thomas.
It is. The most troubling thing about Thomas is like the whole selling point was he's not the best athlete in the draft, but he's the most like ready-made. He was like his technique. He started for 4 years or whatever it was against SEC competition. Like this is a guy you could just plug in, and that has it. So he's not going to necessarily get better. That's like he's not like Peart is this mammoth athlete who maybe has this huge upside. So yeah, it's troubling. You used your cheeseburger analogy. I would like to go back to my steakhouse analogy with Andrew Thomas because I still think that holds very true, which is, like a steakhouse meal is also very reliable, but it's expensive and, you really have to prioritize it. And it's not the flashiest dinner. You could maybe try a new type of hip restaurant, something that you read about in a funky magazine.
Some fusion.
But you're like, no, I'm going steakhouse because I know what I want. I want a good steak. I want a hash brown, whatever it is. But it's going to cost you. You're going to pay like $100. Those meals are super expensive. When that doesn't deliver, it's just so infuriating because you put down some serious coin. Devastating. It's devastating.
Yeah.
When you have a bad steakhouse meal, it does. You're just like, I can't even believe it because you're so excited walking in there. You're like, you thought, oh man, you're going to have beautiful wine. You're going to have one of those waiters that's like puts the napkin on your lap. You're just picturing the steak sizzling. Maybe you're going to get a wedge salad. You're talking 3,000 calories. You're just going for it.
Yeah.
When that doesn't deliver, and that's to me, that's the experience that I'm having right now, where I was like, this guy is coming out New York strip. He's just 15 years.
Right. The blind side taken care of.
Then his jersey's going to be hanging in the rafters. And not only has it not been that, I mean, he's been terrible. Like,
right, awful.
He's been really bad. No. And everybody's just like, well, it's growing. It's like, God, I don't know. He's supposed to be good already. Like, really wasn't supposed to go down like this.
No, and I love your analogy, and just I'll bring it back to a cheeseburger for just a second here because we are tomorrow night. We're hopefully going to see one another in person,
right? In the flesh,
and we're going to go meet our friend Ed, who currently lives in Chicago. And years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, you, me, and Ed went to just a place to eat. It wasn't a steakhouse, but Ed and I ordered cheeseburgers. And I, of course, got mine medium rare, and Ed got his well done. And then the waitress pulled the old switcheroo when she came to the table, and I took a bite of Ed's burger, and I was like, oh, I have your burger. But Ed had really never had medium rare meat before, and he's eating it, and he was like, no, this is much better. I'm not switching back with you. Right. And I was furious.
Right, I remember this. It was Coach's. It was Jim Calhoun's place in Stanford.
Yes. And I think I looked at him, and I was like, this is crap. To me.
This is unedible.
Terrible. And I thought I was getting a cheeseburger, and I saw a medium rare cheeseburger. It was right across the table from me.
Right. So close. So tantalizingly close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure these guys would love hearing this segment. Be like, so they've known we're already treated like pieces of meat. Yeah. Now, quite literally, we're getting treated like a piece of meat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what can you do?
What can you do? I've just had it with the Giants. I hate the Giants. Like, I hate them so much. It's so torturous. And we get to see them in, 2 days?
2 days, yeah. I want to get your thoughts on Joe Judge's fourth down performance this week, right after I do us a little ad read here. You're listening to Radio Free Brooklyn, independent, listener-supported radio. All right, so Brian, how do you judge Joe Judge on his fourth down play calls?
I think he's too conservative. Like, this is a terrible team. We should be going for it on fourth down a lot. I think, what was it? It was a 4th and 2 from like the 38.
Yep.
And we got a punt that I think netted 18 yards of field position.
Yeah.
I just don't see any point of that. I thought we kicked a field goal, when Daniel Jones had a nice third down play, which this is kind of another classic. They ran a nice play on third down that would have been a great play on second down to set up third and short. Instead, they ran it on third down and then kicked a field goal, which I didn't like. So I didn't like it. And I know, then he was asked about it today or yesterday, I think, and I didn't love his answer. And actually, I think you did like the answer. And when I reread it, I feel like my interpretation of it was being a little ungenerous to what he actually said. But he was sort of asked if he gets, if people are telling him win probabilities and these kind of things when he goes for it on fourth down. I just got the sense that that he's not actually getting that information. He sort of hand waved that he takes it into consideration. But I personally think he's just thinking about it during the course of the game. And I totally take his point to I do think you have to what's the flow of the game? How's this game going? How's my defense playing? All of that goes into it. I don't think it's give me the number and that's what I do. But, you do. I just like, why not? He should have been able to identify the human being who is doing that. There should always be someone who's like, hey, if you go for it here, you increase our win probability by 13%. Like, take that without what you will. I'm not saying that's set in stone, but like, you should know that. You should.
Yeah.
And I don't think it always means that that's the answer. If it's like 7%, you might go, you know what? I don't agree. That's totally fine, but you should always know that information. And I just don't get the sense that he's, and maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe he's like, no, there's literally a guy doing that. But I felt like he understood where the question was coming from, and he was trying to be like, no, I acknowledge that stuff is legit, but not, ultimately, I just go with what I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you hear the audio of it, or you just read it?
I just read it.
Okay. Me too. I haven't heard the audio of it either, but I didn't mind the answer just because I guess if you don't believe that he is considering it, then it's like a BS answer. I think that if you're, take him at his word, like I think we're probably going to talk about it actually in a little bit, but the Houston-Tennessee game, like that's where I think things like that go awry, that they had on that, like on Houston's final drive that put them up 7, they're on the 1 yard line. Second down, they run it, get stuffed. Third down, they run it, get stuffed. Fourth down, they do a short pass over the middle. It's a miracle that it gets completed. It's just like in that flow of things, you had that much trouble getting it into the end zone from the 1 yard line, and now you're up 7. You just kicked the extra point. You're up 8. Now you're putting that on Tennessee to have to go for 2. Although I guess they have Derrick Henry. But I think my point is that they wanted to go up 9 to put the game away right there. And I guess that's mathematically correct to do. But if you have 3 tries from the 1 yard line and your 2 runs are just absolute embarrassing jokes, there's something to the flow where you're going to want to ignore the numbers guy. But, ultimately.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think in that Texans example, like, I'm pretty sure the math actually did say to kick the extra point, and he was kind of going against. It was actually like against it.
Yeah.
But I get where he's coming from. He's like, would I rather Deshaun Watson try to win this game right now, or like trust my defense, against Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. So I didn't mind that one.
What'd you think of Riverboat Ron going for 2 to win?
I liked it. I thought that was, like, it was funny. I was actually hoping that they were going to get it. Because if they got it, either we lose or Daniel Jones takes us down the field and we kick a field goal to win, which to me is like, I need to see once. Because I really want to like Daniel Jones. I really do. And I know there's a lot of people ready to like, I've taken him into my bosom and into my ample bosom. And he's not in my heart, but I'm holding him ever so closely towards it. I really wish to love Daniel Jones, and I'm so close. So I was hoping that like either we lose and we're still on track for like being the worst team ever, or we win and Daniel Jones has like his first decent moment as a Giants quarterback, and we got neither because he didn't make it.
Once again, Kyle Allen rears his ugly head.
Just a bum.
Yeah. Just a bum. All right. Well, we came into this like right before we started recording. I was like, I don't even know. I got nothing. I don't know how. And we just did 40 minutes almost on the Giants. So,
right. So
kudos to us. Kudos.
Oh boy.
Well done. The Eagles. What can we expect?
Let's preface this by saying, we're recording this, as people know, on Tuesdays. You'll be listening to it on Thursday morning, and then again. You might be listening to it on the weekend, at which point the Giants will have probably humiliated themselves on national television again.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I think the Eagles stink. They have no weapons, but Carson Wentz seems to have kind of found himself a little bit. And they'll probably beat us, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. This Baltimore game was kind of deceiving because I had it on my iPad, and it was, I think Baltimore went up 17-0 and they just kind of went to sleep. They were just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
A lot of penalties and,
Well, it just feels like Wentz has righted himself a little bit where he's making some plays, but they do have no weapons. It's like a joke. So many injuries. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's another game where it's like, if we can't beat these guys, then like the hell with it.
Right.
But again, another one. I don't know what to do. We get excited about this. I'd like to win, and then maybe I just like don't even know. Does this NFC East thing like? I don't know if I want to get sucked into it. Like
I don't. I do not want to get sucked in.
yeah. But at least it's better than nothing. I guess it's sort of like all of sports right now. It's like the whole bubble.
Yeah.
Like it's better than nothing. I guess it's something to be interested in. Like, it's not real and it's maybe even counterproductive, but it's something.
When are we gonna have packed stadiums again?
I don't know. I miss fans. I'm starting to wear on me. Don't you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just this reminder. Like baseball is hard to watch. Like it's just like such a reminder of everything that's like terrible, and it's just no juice, and you're missing it. You're just starting to feel it. You're like, God, man, it's so much more fun when there's people going crazy, and like the football's been pretty good. I think they've done a good job. You can kind of still watch these NFL games, and they're fun, but I'm missing fans for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's also going to be funny, you talk about baseball. What's going to happen if Clayton Kershaw has an amazing World Series with no fans in attendance? Like, what's that going to do with his legacy?
Right. That's kind of appropriate.
Yeah.
Fitting for his sad legacy. Actually, let's do it since you brought it up. That's one of my hottest takes. Clayton Kershaw. Like Clayton Kershaw's postseason struggles, I think are a thing. I think it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like,
well, how many?
Again, it just kind of goes back to like greatest of all time conversations where like he's in that group. He's in that conversation of like best pitcher ever, and he's been bad in the postseason. And it's not like a small sample anymore. He's had a full season of starts in the postseason, and he has like a 4.2 ERA.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw had a 4.2 ERA in any season. People will be like, what happened? What is wrong with Clayton Kershaw? Is he hurt? Is he like, like it's bad. It's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no question about it.
And he's had some great starts. It's not like he can't do it, but when you're evaluating him, I just don't. It's not unreal. Like I hate when people, you get the crazies that go too far with it, where it's like he's worth, I'd rather have Andy Pettit. It's like, don't be an idiot.
Right.
Like, but it's also totally fair, I think, to be like it's a thing.
Yeah, well, and it's also that's an interesting point too, because like what's crazy is like the can't people, right? Like they're crazy. Like
Right.
he can't do it. Like no,
Yeah.
he absolutely can, and he doesn't, and that's the issue.
Right.
And with him too, he's a pitcher in baseball. He has total control over what he's doing. He controls himself. Like you talk about other athletes in other sports who haven't gotten it done, like whatever, starting to be conversations about James Harden and things like that. But there's so many other things happening with baseball. If you're the pitcher and you're just not getting it done, it's not anyone else. It's you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess if the only thing you could say is his managers haven't always helped him out. Like they kind of, I think, because they have so much faith in him, they'll like keep him in there an unreasonable, when it's like really time to get him out. But in fairness to them, they're like, he's Clayton Kershaw. Like, get these guys out. Gets everybody out.
Right. Get these guys out. Eat up some innings. I don't know. What do you think? Who do you think's going to win the World Series?
I don't know. I mean, I would have to. I don't know. I think I'd pick the Dodgers. I think they're more talented, but the Rays have this sort of whatever hyper efficiency thing going on that they're playing the modern game. They strike out a lot, hit a lot of home runs, great bullpen.
Yeah.
I can barely name any of their players. And they're ruining the sport, but good for them. Hopefully they win, I guess. Right. And it'll be a testament to the executives, because that's who we're all rooting for, our general managers and the people who can most efficiently deliver a roster. That's what I look for when I turn on my sports is who has efficiently managed roster construction to its maximum. I don't know. I hate being one of those people, but baseball, I do think, has crossed a line into like something.
So what do you see for Steve Cohen now that seems to be that clear a big hurdle today, I believe?
He did, yeah. I'm kind of getting excited about Steve Cohen. Just because it sounds like he's got a ton of money. I mean, this is a guy who like paid $1 billion fine and was just like fine with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would love. I think that's what you want. You kind of want a supervillain running your sports team.
Right.
That's nothing wrong with that. And I'm talking about a supervillain, not James Dolan, obviously. You know, not like Woody Johnson or whatever, but like a real supervillain. Like he has the chance to be Lex Luthor running your team.
Right.
Like I would love Lex Luthor to run my
Right,
team.
right.
You know?
He'd be a great baseball owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, baseball, you don't have the constraints you have in the other sports where, you can kind of, the money gets results. You know what I mean? Like if you're willing to spend, you can create a floor for yourself that you can't do in the other sports. So, yeah, I mean, I'm getting, I'm interested to see what he does if he tries to kind of announce himself with like a huge off season to be like this is different. But we'll see. Like it's weird, that he's supposedly going to be hiring Sandy Alderson. There's talk that maybe Brodie Van Wagenen might be back too. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, whatever. But it sure would be fun to have the Mets spending like sailors for a couple of years.
Do you know who's even available this offseason?
I forget. I'd have to look it up. But there are some really big names. I forget who I was hearing. We can delve into that in a future show.
Yeah.
But there's some big names who are going to be available this year, who the Mets are talking about. If he does what people think he might do.
Okay. All right.
So I hope he comes guns blazing.
Yeah. I mean, so do I. I'm not a Mets fan, but I hope he does just because I think it'd be funny. All right, let's do a couple ad reads, and then we'll talk about another depressing franchise, the Knicks. You're listening to Giants Among Men on Radio Free Brooklyn. Thanks for listening to Radio Free Brooklyn. Your support keeps us going. If you'd like to listen to Radio Free Brooklyn and you're not in front of your computer, please consider downloading our free mobile app for iPhone and Android, available in the App Store for iPhone or the Google Play Store for Android. So, Brian, evidently we're going to send R.J. Barrett a few first-round picks and, I don't know, James Dolan's illegitimate children to Houston to get Russell Westbrook back? Or what was that? Was that from Bleacher Report?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was real, but
Oh.
I mean, it does sound like there's some thought the Knicks. I'm like, I don't think I've ever felt more like cautiously optimistic and total dread about the Knicks. I mean, I guess that's always the kind of state of the Knicks, but like this, where you have some things that seem positive but also like, or are they going to do something totally dumb? Like, there's a world to me where they trade for Russell Westbrook, and I'm okay with it. It doesn't include R.J. Barrett and like all their first round picks, but like I could imagine a trade where they do that and then they keep Mitch and Barrett, and then Tom Thibodeau does a pretty good job, and like they're fun. I could see that.
Yeah, I think Westbrook's sort of my least favorite option of the guys whose names are getting brandied about. But like I agree, I'm not terribly even worried about making sure we get somebody young or whatever. Like I would love at this point just to have anybody interesting on the team. What order would you put in terms of? I mean, this is a hard game to play too, because obviously we're gonna have to, other than Fred VanVleet, we would have to get rid of some guys to get these guys. So I guess let's keep VanVleet separate. So rank Oladipo, Chris Paul, and Westbrook. And are we putting Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony as a package deal, or are we just gonna keep Carmelo out of it too?
Keep Carmelo out. I mean, I hope they don't sign Melo unless they have like a decent team. I just don't want to see Melo come in here with a bunch of expectations based off like he played pretty well last year.
Right.
I don't know. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, to me, like Paul would be fine. That would be fun. Like he's only got 2 years left on his deal. If you don't have to give up a ton to get him, like it all depends on what you give up.
Yeah.
But I'm not like one of these guys who's like, we have to keep nothing but young players and assets and draft picks. Like, I think that's fine if they go that route too. That's totally fine. But that's not the end of the world if they get a really good player in here. So for me, I would say Paul, number one, Westbrook to me, number two, though it's like a big drop off because he has 3 years left on his contract. So that's a little bit more of an issue. And the drop off for him could be steep once he falls apart.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't really want to even. To me, I wouldn't touch Oladipo. I don't know.
Really?
I guess I see it. Um, he's never been a guy. He's more of a complimentary player anyway. He's coming off big injuries. Like he was already a little, like he didn't look good last year. Like now he's hurt again. I don't know. It depends, I guess, what you have to give up. But
I agree that the injuries are probably the scariest part of him. I wouldn't mind, especially because he's not an overwhelming star, but still good enough, good attitude, great teammate. Get him in here. He's got a great skill set. Let RJ and Mitch develop with him. Like, then it's not so strange or awkward if RJ kind of overtakes him as the top dog on the team. I wouldn't have a problem with that, but yeah, I guess you're right. That's two major injuries. You're going to worry that his effectiveness to really give up anything for that is going to be tough.
Right. I guess he's still young. I mean, I wouldn't be like, this is awful, but I wouldn't be that excited about it either. I don't know.
Would you rather us trade assets away to get Chris Paul or sign Fred VanVleet to a big contract?
I think I'd rather do the Paul thing.
Yeah, me too.
I don't really, even the more I think about Van Vliet, like, I get it, but I don't know. I just don't think he's going to move the needle enough, and then you're kind of stuck with him. Probably for a while. You're going to have to give him a big contract. Like, I would almost pass on that.
No, I agree with you. Like, it's hard. Like, it is really hard, and I don't know. Maybe just, I don't know how to ever decipher this sort of thing with basketball, but I just feel like I'm not saying Fred VanVleet is a product of his system necessarily, but I think that he is a great complementary piece with a lot of guys around him that complement him very well. But if you bring him here, it's hard to imagine it being as disastrous as Julius Randle was, but suddenly you're the guy now,
Yeah.
And that's a totally different role for him with different expectations and teammates that aren't as good. And there's no guarantee that that's going to work out well if you're paying a guy well over $20 million for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, he's definitely looks one of those guys. He's like a Derek Fisher. He looks a lot better on a good team than a bad team. And maybe he's better than Derek Fisher. I'm sure he is, actually. But it's a little bit in that mold. And we don't need Derek Fisher.
Right, yeah, right.
In
As
fact,
a player or a
coach.
we
already had him. And he ended up getting punched by Matt Barnes for sleeping with his wife or something.
Right.
So,
oh goodness, yeah, right. Nobody needs that.
No one needs that.
Well, Brian.
Yeah.
This is Tuesday. We're recording. The Giants are going to play Thursday, so we air Thursday morning, 6 a.m. on Radio Free Brooklyn, and then we're available for download on Saturday. But so that's our timeline for the week. It's Tuesday now. By the time our fans are listening to us, what will have happened? Last week, I've been asking you this now for 2 weeks. Last week, when I asked you this question, we didn't think, you were kind of like, who knows? Like, I don't really, nothing's really going on. There's no debates. There's no this. And then we had the dueling town halls where Trump called QAnon a anti-pedophilia movement more than anything else. So, I mean, among other things to happen in that time, what's going to happen this week?
I don't know. Could be a crazy week. I think the Giants will probably have lost. And I don't know if we'll get, we've gotten enough news this week already. We've seen a famous writer's penis in a Zoom chat, apparently. Or we haven't seen it, but we've heard about it. So I don't know if we could top that as the week goes on.
That's true.
I hope so. I hope we see.
Right. Could this be one of those things like kind of at the start of Me Too, where once the dam broke, then all these other things came about? Like, yeah. So today it was Jeffrey Toobin's penis. Now there could be other stories about, like, who else's penis made its appearance in a Zoom call the last couple of months is.
Yeah, the penises are going to come out. I'm rushing. it does seem kind of amazing that it took this long.
Right.
And then the person, it's just so funny. Like, I don't know, if you were like, there's gonna be a prominent penis, I wouldn't have guessed him. But
Right.
then it also was like, yeah, okay, that seems kind of perfect. Like that the law. I would never have guessed him. So I'm not suggesting
Right.
that
I
I
was
like.
gonna say, are we being
But
generous? Does Jeffrey Tubin count as a prominent penis?
if you follow the news, he's on CNN quite a bit.
That's true.
So he's written a lot of I don't know if he's a lot of very best-selling books. I don't know if you saw OJ took a shot at him because
No, he did.
yeah.
Of course he did. What'd he
OJ's
say?
been waiting. Yeah, he was just like, oh yeah, so okay, Tubin. Like he just like he's been anxiously waiting for this comeuppance.
Right. It's comeuppance, right?
I feel like I've been surprised the amount of people seemingly. I don't consider myself a Puritan by any stretch, but there's a decent amount of like, well, hey, it can happen to anybody. And I feel like my first reaction was like, there's got to be an innocent explanation. Like, I felt that was my instinct. He was trying, whatever. He was taking a shower, something, and he didn't think he was on, or he was quickly getting dressed, and he was trying something. And then it's like, no, he was literally masturbating.
Right, yeah.
He was doing the worst possible thing he could have been doing.
Right. It also It wasn't accidental nudity. It was an act, a sex
And it was
act.
during a work call, like,
Yeah.
and for the New Yorker. It's a seemingly fairly prestigious organization. You're a 60-year-old man,
Yeah.
a professional of some kind. I mean, I'm like, again, I like normally err on the side of like, hey, we're all human beings here, flesh and blood. We have our urges and whatnot. But like, you can't be masturbating during work meetings. That feel like I am fine with that. If like that's a line that gets drawn and everybody draws it, and everyone's like, if you masturbate and expose yourself on camera to your coworkers, that's a powerful offense. If we're laying down that marker, like, okay,
I'll obey it.
Seems reasonable to me. Like, and I hate firing people. Look, everybody, we're feeding our families. This is like firing people shouldn't be done willy nilly.
Right.
To use an unfortunate pun, but I like what?
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, I just felt, I don't know, something struck me this morning. I saw on Twitter, like, he has a daughter, and I was just like, oh, just brutal. Like, all of Twitter is about it. I felt bad for the daughter, really. 'Cause, like,
right. I do too. Terrible.
Yeah.
Just like, imagine, I mean, I just can't even. Like,
No.
you have to be like, honey, going to your wife.
Oh, God.
Honey, something bad has happened.
Right. I mean, in his defense, he was in like a model UN, which must have been brutal,
I know. That was the other thing. I was like, the only thing weirder than him masturbating was what they were doing on the call. Like, what are you doing? What? And like somebody was like the establishment Republicans. They were gaming out like the election.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This week, actually, my wife Nicole was doing in our bedroom, she was doing a Pilates class virtually, like on the computer or whatever. And sometimes she does them live, and sometimes they're just pre-recorded ones that she accesses through the password or whatever, and that, she just takes a class she's already taken before. So I don't know. I thought it was a recorded call, and she's doing it in our bedroom, and I just gotten out of the shower. I'm walking around our bedroom stark naked. And I hear the Pilates instructor go, okay, very good, Nicole. Now raise up your right hip. And I just dropped to the floor. And I'm like, how did you not tell me it's a live class? And she's like, no, it's a recorded one. They just must have like said my name in the class. And I had a moment of just total panic right there.
No, I mean, look, we're all dealing with it. Like, it's one thing, like, I've been on calls and, like, Joanna comes in here after a shower and I'm like, oh, my, I've had to, like, undo the camera. And she's like, were you just, like, things happen. So, look, if he was, like, I thought maybe he was, like, tucking in his shirt and somehow something, something happened.
Me too.
No, he was, in fact, pleasuring himself.
Yeah.
And I think it should be frowned upon.
Yeah, right. I don't think that's necessary. He doesn't need to do that.
He shouldn't be doing that.
No, that was a mistake. All right, I think that's a good note to end it on, Brian.
All right, before we go, I think we are supposed to plug the Wall of Lies one more time.
Oh.
So we're doing it again. RFB is pleased to announce the unveiling of its second Wall of Lies, a groundbreaking visual art project demonstrating the unprecedented lack of honesty from our current commander-in-chief. The original wall was first displayed in Bushwick, Brooklyn, was vandalized by white supremacists who put the slogans "Vote Trump and Die," Vote Trump or Die, and it really probably should be Vote Trump and Die.
Right.
Let's face it. Anyway, the new wall is going to be twice as long because there's just more lies to go around, and it's starting Saturday, October 24th from 12 to 5. We're going to be unveiling the location at later date, so keep on the lookout at radiofreebrooklyn.org /Wall of Lies for the actual location, so that we can keep the Proud Boys and all those crazies off the place.
Like, we're dealing with white supremacists. Like, that's a real like concern now. Like what?
It's crazy.
Okay.
Crazy times we live in.
Sure is. All right, Brian, keep your head on a swivel.
All right.
Good
A pleasure as always. We'll do this next week.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, we love you all.